I know you're dead set against this, Abby, but I don't think we have any choice." Abby Warner swallowed past the lump in her throat and shifted her attention to James Lippick, who sat beside her at the round table in the Oak Hill Gazette conference room. Twin vertical grooves were etched in the center of the older man's forehead, forming sharp right angles to the flat, resigned line of his lips. None of the other finance board members looked any happier. Harold Walsh's ruddy face was pinker than usual, his shock of unruly white hair falling into even greater disarray as he jabbed his fingers through it. Vernon Luttrell stared down at the table, giving Abby a view of the top of his head, where bristly gray hair spiked to attention on either side of a shiny bald runway. Tony Parisi doodled on a pad of paper in front of him that was blank except for a series of dollar signs. A tide of bitterness washed over her. That's what it all came down to. The almighty dollar. Forget about truth and heritage and independence. Let's just make money. There has to be another way. Hard as she tried to quash it, a desperate note wove through her voice. "We've tried to come up with other alternatives, but this is the only viable option." Harold's voice was gentle but firm. Much as she wanted to vent her anger and frustration on the paper's board, that wouldn't be fair. Bottom line, it was a fiscal issue. Publishing conglomerates were gobbling up smaller papers, making it difficult for independents to survive. Nor was this a new problem. Abby massaged her forehead. If only her father hadn't been forced to enlist the aid of 3 successful local businessmen 14 years ago when the fortunes of the Weekly Gazette had begun to sour. Yes, each investor had acquired only a 15% share, leaving her father a controlling interest. And yes, all had been willing to support a free and independent press. But when Dad had to add a 4th investor in order to keep the paper solvent 12 years ago, voting power had tipped in favor of the board, putting the Gazette in a precarious situation, as her father knew. However, none of the members had ever sided against him or her since she'd taken over 10 years ago after Dad's fatal heart attack.